Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're really focusing in on something you, our listener, have been making some great progress on, the TomeStackLite project.
Mm-hmm.
You've hit a pretty major milestone, haven't you? Getting that foundational web app created and actually deployed.
Yeah, that's a huge step, moving from just ideas and code to something live on the web.
Exactly. So this deep dive is really about understanding, what went into that, why it matters. We're using your discussion doc, the TomeStackLite Foothold Discussion 5.
Your turn. Using the code and joining the community.txt. Got it.
Right. And our mission basically is to pull out the key bits from that milestone, what was done, why it's important, and maybe how you could apply these ideas yourself.
Absolutely. It's about seeing the practical side of taking a digital project from 0 to, well, at least 0.1, a deployed 0.1.
Okay, so let's kick things off at this term the document uses, foothold.
Right, the foothold concept.
Yeah, it defines it as, let me see, a strong or favorable position from which further advances or progress may be made.
Which is a great way to put it.
So in this case, the foothold is the actual deployed app, the one at https://tomelite.web.app.
Exactly that. It's the initial stable base. It's minimal right now, sure, but it's built properly with modern tools. It's not just thrown together.
And that matters, right? Especially for learning. It's about building something solid, not just fast.
Precisely. It's that foundation. You wouldn't build a house on shaky ground. This is the digital equivalent, getting the core structure right first.
Okay, and looking at how that structure was built, the document lists some pretty significant technical steps.
Yeah, there's quite a bit under the hood for even a basic deployment these days.
Like setting up a Linux dev environment on Windows 11, using WSL2 and Debian.
Which is pretty standard practice now for web dev, even on Windows. It gives you that Linux environment where a lot of server stuff runs.
Makes sense. And then the core technologies, Next.js 15, React, TypeScript. These are like the current heavy hitters.
Definitely. Next.js provides the framework React for the UI components, and TypeScript adds that safety layer. Helps catch errors early. Very modern stack.
It sounds like a solid choice for maintainability down the line.
For sure. Scalability, too.
And then there's the configuration side,
Yeah.
setting up Firebase tools.
Right. Firebase is doing a lot of the backend as a service heavy lifting here.
And navigating Google Cloud stuff, API enabling IAM permissions. The doc calls this a challenging real-world process.
Oh, it absolutely can be. Getting cloud permissions right is crucial, but often fiddly. It's basically controlling who gets access to what in your cloud setup. Easy to mess up if you're not careful.
So getting through that is a real win.
Definitely. It shows thoroughness. Security isn't an afterthought.
Okay, but here's the part I think is really cool. The CI/CD pipeline with GitHub Actions.
Ah, yes, the automation magic.
Explain that a bit. CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous deployment.
Right. Basically, it means setting up an automated workflow. So every time you push new code to your main branch in GitHub, .GitHub Actions automatically kicks in. It builds the application, maybe runs some tests, and if everything passes, it automatically deploys the new version to Firebase Hosting.
So the website, https://tomelite.web.app, is always running the latest code from the main branch automatically.
Pretty much, yeah. No more manual uploads. No, did I remember to deploy moments. It streamlines everything and reduces errors.
That sounds incredibly useful. A real game changer, like you said.
It really is standard practice for professional teams now, for good reason. Faster updates, more reliable deployments.
Okay, so that leads us to the actual result.
Yeah.
A basic Next.js app live on Firebase Hosting.
Yep. Simple, but it's there. It proves the whole pipeline works, from code commit to live website. And Firebase Hosting makes that deployment part relatively easy.
Right, handles the servers, the scaling.
Exactly. You focus on the app, Firebase handles the hosting infrastructure.
Now, this is where the document gets really interesting, I think. It shifts focus with, now it's your turn.
The call to action.
It's inviting the listener, you, to actually engage with this. First step, get the code.
Right, it's in its own repository. You can clone it, or even better, fork it, make your own copy.
And the encouragement is to really look through it. Understand the structure, especially that CI/CD file. The deploy.iml one.
Exactly. See how it's put together. Reading the workflow file tells you exactly how that automated deployment we talked about actually works. It's learning by looking at a real working example.
Which is often the best way, right? Get your hands dirty.
Absolutely.
And then it goes further. Build your own project.
Yeah, this is the really exciting part. The idea isn't just about TomeStackLite. This foundation, this foothold.
Yeah.
It's designed to be a launch pad. You can take this basic setup and adapt it for your own ideas. A portfolio, maybe another kind of marketplace, whatever.
How would someone actually do that?
Well, the doc suggests clone the TomeStackLite basic repo, then start tweaking things in the sec or C directory, the pages, the components, the styles. Make it look and feel like your project.
So you start with something that works and modify it.
Exactly. Much easier than starting from a completely blank slate, especially when you're learning.
But what about the deployment? That CI/CD pipeline was set up for this project.
Good point. You need to adapt it. The document guides you through that too.
Okay.
You create your own Firebase project, get a service account key that's like a secret password for the automation.
Right, for security.
Yep. And then you just update the projected in that deploy.iml file to point to your Firebase project. The rest of the pipeline structure for Next.js to Firebase is already there for you.
So you're essentially just reconnecting the wires to your own destination.
It's a good analogy, yeah. You're leveraging the existing setup, but pointing it at your own cloud resources. It's a great way to learn about that connection.
And what if you get stuck doing this? Adapting the code, setting up Firebase?
Well, that's the next point. Join the community Discord.
Right, the support network.
Exactly. The document really emphasizes using the Discord server. Ask questions if you hit roadblocks with the code, Firebase, the CI/CD, anything.
So it's not just, here's the code, good luck.
No, definitely not. It's also about sharing what you're building, getting feedback, learning together, basically, which is invaluable.
Makes sense. Having that community support can make a huge difference when you're tackling something new.
For sure.
Okay, so finally, the document looks ahead. Ideas for next features. Building on this foothold.
Right. Showing where this could go, how you take that basic foundation and build out a real application.
And the list is pretty comprehensive. First up, Firebase authentication. User sign up, sign in.
Yeah, basic user accounts, protected routes maybe, stuff only logged in users can see. Pretty fundamental for many apps.
And then Firestore database for actually storing data, right? Like book details, user profiles, getting rid of placeholder content.
Exactly. Firestore is Firebase's NoSQL database solution. That's where all the application's actual information would live. Orders, maybe reading progress too.
Makes sense. And storing the actual files, ebooks, cover images.
That would be Firebase storage. It's designed for handling user-generated content like files and images.
Okay. And, crucially, for a marketplace.
Yeah.
Payments. Stripe integration.
Yep. Handling money securely. The doc mentions using Next.js API routes or maybe cloud functions for the secure backend processing needed for payments. Stripe makes the front-end part easier, but you still need secure backend logic.
Right. You can't handle payment details just in the browser.
Definitely not.
And then there's an admin dashboard idea, like a admin section.
Yeah, for managing the site, adding books, viewing users, handling orders, using those database operations, create, read, update, delete, CRUD.
Essential for running the platform.
And then they even mentioned potentially using GenKit AI features, like AI-powered book summaries using Google AI.
Ooh, that's interesting. Adding some smarts.
Yeah, leveraging modern AI capabilities to add value.
The list also gets into more technical refinement, doesn't it? TanStack query.
Right, for managing data fetching and caching on the client side, makes the app feel faster, more responsive, handles loading states, background updates, that kind of thing.
And UI/UX polish, using specific component libraries and styling tools.
Yeah, making it look good and feel intuitive, using things like shadcn and Tailwind CSS, important for user experience.
And last but definitely not least, testing.
Critically important, unit tests, integration tests, end-to-end tests.
And integrating those into the CI/CD pipeline.
Absolutely. So tests run automatically before every deployment. Catch bugs before they hit users. That's professional-grade development.
Wow, okay. So that's quite a roadmap for potential growth built on that initial foothold.
It really shows how starting with that solid automated foundation allows you to then layer on complex features systematically.
So let's sort of wrap this up. The big takeaway here is that TomeStackLite has successfully put down roots, right? A working, automatically deployed basic app on Firebase.
Exactly. That foothold is established, the plumbing is in place, the foundation is solid and modern.
Which is, in itself, a really significant achievement in any software project.
Often the hardest part, honestly. Getting that initial infrastructure and deployment workflow right, now the focus can shift more towards features.
And for our listener, the opportunity is pretty clear. There's code to explore, a community to join.
Yeah, it's a real chance to learn practical skills. You can see how a modern web app is built and deployed step by step.
And potentially use it as a springboard for your own ideas. whether it's just tinkering or launching something real.
It really lowers the barrier. You're not starting from scratch. You have this working foundation and a support system.
Okay, so as we finish up, here's something to think about. We just ran through a whole list of potential next features for TomeStackLite user accounts, database, payments, AI, admin tools, testing.
Lots of possibilities.
So the question for you, the listener, is if you were building your own digital idea on this foundation, whether it's a marketplace or something else entirely, which of those next features would you prioritize? What problem would adding user accounts solve first? Or maybe integrating payments is the absolute key. What brings the most value, fastest, to the kind of application you imagine building?
That's a great question. It forces you to think about minimum viable product, about core value. What's the next essential step for your vision?
Exactly, something to ponder. What would you build next on this foothold?